Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Mr. Dogboat333, and welcome back to the All-Russian government of the Far East. Now, last video, we were working on our Black Shirt division. And speaking of Bolotov, we also did some working on collectivizing our economic management and work on our army. It's going pretty well, and then the game decided to crash. Something was happening. I'm sure the game had its reasons, but luckily we had an autosave hit right before we left. And now we are back at it. Germany is going after Caucasia. Speaking of Bolotov, looks like we have a choice. The atmosphere of the party and the party headquarters was a far cry from the Harbin headquarters with a neon swastika. Back then, Rodzewski had been less paranoid and less pliable. Now, even entering the Vol's office was an exercise in duplicity. Shekarev's men watched the entrance constantly, and only on rare occasions was Bolotov able to speak to the Vols privately. He knocked, head twitching back and forth to look for black shirts, then whipped his head back to the doors. Rodzewski snapped at him from inside. Enter! He slipped into the room quickly. The Voz sat behind the desk, glaring at his lieutenant. So, Nick Bolotov, it's good you're here. I need you to investigate something for me. Reports of smugglers in the port of Magadan. Shekarov says they're remnants of traitors, intent on causing trouble for us until the last dying breath. Normally being interrupted in his goals in such a manner would have upset Bolotov, and in his younger days he would have taken out his frustrations on a random victim snatched up from the streets of Harbin. But decades of loyal service to the Vols had taught him much of the man, and this was an opportunity to advance his cause, not a burden to be taken on. We seem to be beset by enemies on all sides, my Vols. Might I make a suggestion? Speak, Alexander. Was that irritation you detected? Sortnik Shekarev's men have seemed to be proven unable to keep out the perfidious influence of our enemies. The Black Shirt have served our purposes well, but they are lacking in organization and equipment. I suggest to create a newer, more specialized unit with proper military training and advanced education on how to spot enemies of the state. The best, most loyal men we can find on the model of a German paramilitaries. The Vols contemplated the idea momentarily, then issued a judgment. A strong proposal, Sorotnik. Do it. Because as we all know, it's modeled off the SS, and that's causing no issues for Germans right now. OOB. It has a nice ring to it. Despite the German troubles with their SS, the Vols was wise enough to know not to ever let the OOB get out of hand. Black Shirts, however, considered the OOB would be the perfect tool to cement the RP's control over the populace. A reign of terror, a peace for the compliant, and a reign of terror for the dissidents. And what's more is that in times of war, the OOB can fight alongside our regular troops and the Black Shirts, just as the SS did, oftentimes meaning the difference between glorious victory and humiliating defeat. Bolotov can have his branch and will cast a long shadow over Russia and her internal enemies. The Bolshevik and the Jew will know a new type of fear, one that will penetrate their being straight to the core, that will keep them up at night, and will further unify our fine nation against their perfidious efforts to destroy the Russian people. Truly, the OOB will help us build a great future. Why the heck not? So now we're able to go after these guys, which will be nice. We just got to get our political power going. Low minimum deployed navy size. What? I don't quite know what that means, I'll be honest. But that's okay. We'll be okay. How's our poverty looking? Still going down, technically. Oh. You've all been selected as the most loyal examples of what an ideal Russian should be. The Vols has personally approved the creation of a new security assurance squad to influence the Zionist traitors in our country. Destroy the influence of Zionist traitors in our country, rather. You will build this organization for us, and the Vols will supply you with what you need. I expect a list to be formed of good, reliable soldiers, irresponsible for their training and obedience. Boltov smiled as he addressed the first unit of officers in the OOB. Under the nose of Shekharev, he had triumphed and received permission for his own power base, but there were still many obstacles. He would need weapons, uniforms, a network of bureaucracy to manage the list, and many more resources. Still, his star was certainly rising. The trust of the Vols was rare and was common for it to ebb and flow on Radzevsky's whim. This momentary success would surely not last, but Boltov had clawed his way further up in status, now possessed a knife which he could use to give the Vols' enemies what they deserve. We shall root out every traitor. Next, let's go ahead and do the banner buff. In the darkest days, when the Vols and the most loyal were freezing in the undeveloped Zaya, and even earlier in Arbin, many drastic measures had to be taken. The RFP was structured in a way that, like in comparison to organized crime syndicates, black-shirt thugs would patrol the streets, beating those weak enough or dumb enough to be caught in its crosshairs. The party's leaders, Brzezinski included, acted more like mafia by doling out gifts and ordering hits. This was effective when our party was scratching out a meager resistance and surviving on scraps of political fanaticism. There's no way to operate a major nation, one with a bid. No, the inevitability of uniting the Russian nation. Luckily, through Radzevsky's skilled political maneuvering, we managed to purge most of the undesirable aspects and individuals from our party and reform it into a functioning political organ. Thus, moving forward, this will allow us to operate above board and effectively. We got our new units over here. Spectacular. That's a word now. Spectacular. I'm making it a word. Let's do night vision equipment. Do special forces. I think we're not technically supposed to have. We are supposed to have. Technically not supposed to have elite infantry, but I think we got them with a new division, which I'm okay with. Soon we're going to be assassinating Kim Il-sung. That won't get me demonetized by saying that, surely. Ooh, look, we're about to improve our credit rating from terrible to just poor. Our deficit is high, but how many years has it been? Lev Okatin fought himself as he walked down the main street of Chita. 50 years or so? That sounded about right. So much had changed since he left the city with his family in 1920. There was a number of apartments and unfamiliar buildings where once only houses stood. The roads were much better paved than he remembered too. Some buildings, mainly landmarks like the museum and church, remained the same. Okatin tried to recognize any familiar faces in the throngs who walked among the streets. He turned his gaze to an old woman. That mark on her cheek, that could only have been Mrs. Yakintova, who ran the store down the street on his house and gave him and his friends candy for free. Okatin was going to say something when Yakintova realized he was looking at her. Turning white with fear, she hid her face and scurried away. As Okatin tried to pick up some individual people in the crowd, more and more of them did the same, covering their faces in fear, trying not to catch the attention. He tried to call out a man with sandy blonde hair that Okatin recognized, his schoolmate, Dmitry Lebendinsky. Dimasha! Please, I didn't do anything. Okatin didn't know what to say as Dmitry fled. He felt like an idiot who said the wrong word to some passerby. Was he not? He thought as his heart sank with solitude. No longer the second most powerful man in the Far East, but just another man isolated on a crowded street. Ours is a high and lonely destiny. Well, let's first get the enemy. Kind of sad. Deserved, but sad. Russia is a country beset on all sides, and war still within by enemies, Bolsheviks, Freemasons, and worst of all, the Jews. All scheme to see a Russia weakened by communism and internal division. We know our enemy, but the people that we rule over do not. Mere months ago, many of them were oppressed by the very Bolsheviks that we despise, making sure Russians still live and work alongside Jews and communist sympathizers. This will not and cannot do. Our people must know the enemy. With our forces, paramilitary or otherwise, we can identify every single one of our enemies and enact sufficient measures on them, make them targets of public shaming, force them to wear identifications of their genetic and political stains, and collect their names and information on a very, very long list. As luck would have it, we have a security minister who has highly experience in compiling these lists and acting on them with extreme prejudice. Well, time to assassinate Kim Il-sung. I think this will get us cores on these bits of territory, if I understand correctly. These guys are doing fairly well against Finland. Small house just outside of the lonely village and appears as the headquarters of terrorist group, but then again, if it did, Kim Il-sung would have been captured a long time ago. Once a high-ranking army, the Northeast Anti-Japanese United Army, or NAJUA for short, Kim had risen to become the leader of as Japan conquered China and outer Manchuria, dashing his hopes of once again returning to Korea. Now he was a terrorist, hiding in bunkers and homes, and planning attacks on garrisons and railroads. Although successful campaigns were beginning to wane. Ever since the Russian government had taken over outer Manchuria, the Russians were much more efficient than the Japanese at hunting down his group. Black shirt raids on Najwa hideouts continue to grow, and its members continue to dwindle. As the sun set low over the horizon, Kim could no longer focus on his plans. What did they matter anyway? It's not like they had enough members to carry them out. The remnants of Najwa now hid out in this village, hiding in with the locals. Kim decided to head upstairs and maybe get some sleep if he could. Before he could even make it past the window, what he saw outside shocked him to his core. Blackshirts had found them already. Dark trucks continued to pull into the village, emptying out large groups of black-shirt soldiers, rounding up anyone they deemed suspicious. It will only be a matter of time before he decided to visit his home and surely kill him on sight. He had to escape while he still had time. Moving quickly to the back door, Kim ran to the deep forest just outside the village. Shouts came from behind him, but the blackshirts were chasing him. It was too late. Kim had prepared an escape plan just for this moment, and he already knew where the small safe house miles deep in the forest was. But Kim knew he would never be able to reappear again. But Najwa was dead, and another enemy to Japan's empire had fallen once more. Let's hope he never rears his ugly face again. Kind of feel bad for him, which is weird to say. There we go. We got core states now on all of his territory. Which you like to see. I like to see, at least. Anywho. Okay. That's a pretty good quote, actually. Konstantin Radzevsky sat in his office, Boltov and Shekarev across the desk from him. Both provided the balls with a series of very long lists. Individuals and their families were either Jews, communists, or simply cozy with either group. The lists were way too long for the Vols to read them personally, as the pair had come in with their respective lists. Radzevsky had looked from the list, sitting on his desk back to the pair. Is this everyone? The pair looked at each other, rivals briefly united in tension. This is a start, my Vols. There's a lot more where this is coming from. Vols nodded his head in understanding. He thought for a minute before grimacing. These bastards. These complete bastards. Jews, communists. These creatures have long plagued our nation. They've infiltrated our people, our culture, and morphed it, weakened it. They've made us rot, turned once brave Russians into cowardly fools, made the bravest tepid, the strongest weak. For years they've done this. No one has had the courage to do anything about it. Both Shekarev and Boltov nodded, not out of fear, but of genuine belief, but looked into their eyes, betrayed their zeal. The Vols continued. This is a good start, but it's not enough. We need to purge the rot, to cut out the infection by any means necessary. I want these names taken care of, but I want more names. Russia shall be cleansed of toxins afflicting her. The purges continued. Get more political power, at least. That's nice. What do we want to do next? Sounds like we're gonna have another event pop up. We might just want to rush down that and get it over with, honestly. We finally got back under 92% poverty. We're not getting close to that anytime soon. Yeah, let's rip the band-aid off. Glory in labor. There's a sort of poetic achievement in the lifestyle of a factory worker, romantic ideal of a man so interested in furthering his nation and achieving his greatness, not just of himself, but of his community, who shows the dedication of his family and a sacrifice, and ultimately of his people, and sacrifices for the good of the nation. The Russian is a man who should be proud of his labor. Our factories work hard to achieve the best for our nation has begun to show. We need to capitalize the increase of efficiency and encourage our nascent industrial base to work even harder than it already does. We need to instill in our people the idea that glory is in labor, and that the work our industrial soldiers do is for the good of the state, for the good of their God, and for the good of their Vost. So we're going from penal labor, to corvée slavery. Jesus fuck. No. They're just not fucking around, are they? Been so long, Vasily Tarusin thought to himself as the car drove down the streets of Irkutsk. Once he was a young cadet who studied at the military academy here, under the Whites at first, but under the Soviets much longer. Now he's one of the top governments of the all-Russian government of the Far East. Funny how it all worked out. He passed the corner where the old pub used to stand, where he and his fellow officer cadets used to drink on weekends. Now it was an apartment building. Shame, he thought. Maybe if it's posted here, he'll have it rebuilt. But Tarusin wasn't here to sightsee and reminisce of his youth. He was here on official business. The car pulled up to an old apartment building. Even this was still standing here, he thought. He and a squad of soldiers exited the car and headed into the building. He was told the head of a major spy ring lived here, and it was his job to collect him before he could be properly liquidated. According to intelligence papers, the spy master lived here. Apartment 129. Private busted down the door, and a man with a light brown beard, pale wisps gray with age, should stalk the men. Akeem? The guy who used to buy him drinks at the pub? Akeem shouted, tears streaming down his face as Tarusin read the arrest warrant. The soldiers dragged him out of the apartment. Please, you can't do this to me, Vasya. Please! As the soldiers threw him into the trunk, Tarusin kneeled down at him and spoke a single sentence to him, his voice cold as ice. This is a professional relationship. Damn. What do we want to do next? We're gonna need poverty relief programs. Yeah. We're just going to need more of them. If we want to be able to keep it vaguely. Also, these improvements in healthcare coming up, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Let's move on. Let's get better motorized. I think we need motorized anyway, so... Well, lower wages, longer hours. Work harder, not smarter. I'm not paying you to work smart. We need to reach our quotas, otherwise I won't get my bonus, and I won't be paying any of you. Back to work, before I really lose my temper. Who said that the workers need comfortable hours and generous salaries? Where did they where did that get the Soviets? Our workers will work for the nation that they're proud of without good money or hours. Our industrial base is still pitifully low compared to what it needs to be. In order to ensure that the continued productivity of our factories and the economic well-being of the all-Russian state continues, we need to slash wages to increase governmental and privatized incomes and increase hours worked to further increase productivity. Right now, we cannot afford disharmony among our workers, even if they are working harder than ever. Fucking shit. Let's see how bad our poverty is looking. It is inversed. And I think it's only going to get lower from here. Just can't catch a break with the poverty rate, can we? Well, what are you gonna do, huh? Other than complain. Mitchell and his friends began their trek home from the factory in relatively good cheer. While the workers' back rating, it was at the very least put food on the table for their families. When they were finally over their shifts, they celebrated with a few shots and started their walk home. However, the good cheer did not last long. As they turned the corner, they passed a bar frequented by soldiers of the all-Russian government. A small group of soldiers broke off in position, and the entryway and drunkenly stumbled at their wind group. Look at these fucking mongrels, thinking they could just walk by their betas without paying the toll. A particularly burly man in the front of the group spoke with heavy slur. His friends had spread around Mitchell's group. Look here, rats. You're gonna cough up your rubles, and then you'll go on your way. If you don't, me and my friends here are gonna make you wish you never crawled out of your fucking caves. Please, sir, we're just trying to get home, please. Mitchell was nearing hysterics. If they lost what little money they had, it was likely they would end up starving to death. Before he could continue, the man slammed his fist in his stomach. The air was forced out of his lungs, and he fell to his knees as he laughed around him. Before the man could continue his beating, a loud whistle broke through the air. From down the street marched a grizzled and absolutely living-looking sergeant. "What the fuck do you think you're doing, you fucking retrobates? Get your asses back to the bears before I personally skin your hides." The look on the man's face made it seem as if he was dead serious. Mitchell opened his mouth to thank him, but it snapped shut when he saw the raw, undisguised disgust he had for him and his friends. Even when they help us, they hate us. Well, look, we have a lot more manpower. I'm going to go ahead. Train a few more of these guys up. Then we'll do survival of the fittest. The Russian is inherently a strong individual who comes from strong stock. This is one of our traits imbued in all of us when we were born. These brave men have worked hard to achieve a vision of a strong and industrialized Russia. However, it's no secret that some of the less uncommitted workers have been feeling as if they are unable to work longer hours with lower pay. Some of them have gone far enough to complain that it's a detriment to their physical health. No true Russian would have an issue with the policies that we've implemented. The Vols clearly wouldn't have implemented them otherwise. Clearly, these individuals aren't cut out for our factories, for our state. Steklov and a number of other high-up government officials have begun to propose a survival of the fittest strategy, an unofficial policy which will remove our weakest and least stable of our society, who will be replaced with the true Russians that we seek. Now, I did the warlord tier list a while ago at this point. That'd actually improve our poverty too. Just gotta do that. And one of the things that you get people in the comments all the time saying, "Oh, you should include this guy or that guy." Because they, or you know, whatever. I'll sign these guys, and you know, there are like little levels and bits of contention that I can kind of see, but I'd always see people say, oh, Rdzevsky's not F tier. Because I think I put him in F tier. In fact, I'm pretty sure I put him in F tier. Like, oh, he is... I've seen some people say D tier. Even that I'm a little skeptical of as I'm playing this. But I've seen some people say, oh, he's S tier. And some of them might be ironic, but it's also the internet, so it's hard to know how ironic or unironic they're being. And I'm looking at this, and aside from my personal horrors and my personal apprehension about how this is going, it also just, oh shit, we're actually doing okay. Poverty reduction wise, that's not bad. Let's go ahead and do readjust taxation policies. What homeless person can buy a factory and start it up? What peasant can begin to manage a business? And what factory worker can use his knowledge to start an industrial firm on its own? The wealth, like it or not, is concentrated in the hands of a few individuals, many of whom reign from Harbin days. Yet these wealthy individuals struggle under what we consider to be an unfair taxation system, which encourages them to save their money instead of spending it for the good of the Russian people, which slash taxes for these wealthy individuals and their associated businesses, so they're encouraged to invest further in our economy. Compensate for the losses incurred to the government's treasury by simply further increasing the taxes for the sectors of society that don't matter as much for economic development and success. What are they going to do? Complain? That's sort of... Like, I'm looking at, like, the economic policy, and it's... Oh my god! Holy shit. That might have been, yeah, I think that was this finishing up, actually. But, if I wasn't doing all this, the poverty would still be sky high. We have high debt. What is this? The August Revolution. France is imploding. What's that? All sucks to sucks. French Civil War. Well, good luck with that, mon amis. Just taxation policy, like looking like the economy, fucking dog shit. We'll eventually get it past our ratings, but you know we're giving most of our resources over to Japanese. The economic policies don't seem to be very well thought out. It's not a good mixture. It really isn't. So yeah, hot take, but this guy is he's not very good for Russia. I might be a little bit too presumptuous there. I don't want to, might be speaking a bit too soon. I don't know, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking. Let's do all Russian corporations though for now. The office was empty except for the Vols and Konstantin Steklov, economy minister of the Russian state, who had worked late into the night preparing the announcement for formation of first Russian megacorporations. This was funded and controlled by the private sector, mainly wealthy emigres who survived Rdzevsky's purges. The government, namely Steklov, had done a significant number of legwork to coordinate the merger of a number of firms and individuals. The pair sat in a large office, drinking the night away and celebrating the beginning of a new era of the Russian economy. The Far Eastern conglomerate, DNK in Russian, the first of many Russian megacorporations that would have the aim of dominating the Russian economy and forging a stronger Russia. The Russia tomorrow waits for no one, eh? Sortin Steklov. Yeah, I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but I don't like this guy. I'm not a big fan of him. We'll improve our healthcare networks. I think that's what we really need. We do have extra military factories, finally. I think with all this, I'll go ahead. Got motorized going. I think it's going to be time to finally get working on anti-air. Like, I'll skip ahead and get working on this one. We can create our agency. There we go. Didn't mean to click on that, but if I can, I'll go ahead and do it. Why not? Meanwhile, go ahead and sell some convoys. Free production units. It was a cold, bitter morning in the center of the city of Rdzevsk. Vakin Vinogradov waited his votes, chilled by the early morning snow. He looked toward his chauffeur before checking his watch. 8:15. The Vols was late. It was far from surprising, knowing the proclivities of his supreme leader, but Vinogradov couldn't help but worry that the meeting he had forced to be scheduled was little more than an opportunity to purge the nation industrialist. However, as the Vols' all-black car came into sight, Vinogradov felt a sigh of relief. As the Vols stood from his car, Vinogradov seemed moved to meet him. The pair of men met with a handshake. "Sornik, it's good to see you. And you, my Vols." Gesturing upwards towards the brick-and-mortar factory behind him, belching black smoke upwards, he continued. "Shall we?" The pair toured the facility, with Vinogradov giving the Vols an announcement of how the factory worked. He had truthfully been worried about the Vols' reaction and condition of the workers. The factory had been working them virtually around the clock, with little to nothing in the way of breaks for food. The workers looked withered and sad. It was hard to tell which were slaves and which weren't, but Vinogradov aptly pointed out the slaves were giving only the most dangerous jobs. The Vols took everything in, almost always silent, posing the occasional question. As pair once again exited the factory, he stretched out his hand for a handshake. As Vinogradov took it, the Vols gripped his hand tightly. "Very good work, Vinogradov. Very good. They shall work harder, my Vols." We'll see if they work harder next time, because I gotta leave it here, folks. Thanks so much for watching, though. If you like this video, like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you want to keep up to date with these uploads, hit the sub button. I have them going up weekdays as well as occasionally Saturdays. If you have any comments, feedback, concern, all that good stuff, check out the comment section. Leave something there. I read all the comments and appreciate any all feedback you might have for me. If you have any various links or commentary down the description box, I'm stumbling on words, dang it. Well, I'm tired and I need to leave soon for the stuff I got planned. Check out my various links down in the description box. We'll have a Discord, Patreon, second channel, and Twitch, which you're all free to check out at your own leisure. That's it for now, my friends. I thank you for watching. My name has been Mr. Dogbot333, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.